really comment on any of the points that we've heard this afternoon from you. I mean, there's been some quite diverse points, but I think some quite useful ones. And I think perhaps if I start really in reverse order, Annette, is there anything that you want to say in response to the comments?
Yeah, I'll just pick up on the public engagement comment if I can, because you're absolutely right that public engagement in science is obviously a growing and a profession, and one in which there's quite a lot of women working in. Now, that may not surprise us because women also, with science degrees, can go into teaching as well. And I think whilst women are good communicators, if I wanted to stereotype, what I would also want to shy away from is actually stereotyping women into those careers as well. I think it's very important that women are actually doing science as well as talking about it and as well as teaching it. So that's the comment I wanted to make.
Okay, thank you. And David?
Right. Yes,
There are quite a few comments I think you'd want to talk about. There's quite a lot
covered a lot of things.
Engineering.
Let me just start with this question of the value of science to society. First thing is we really need to be positive. We are a damned good nation academically and from a manufacturing point of view. Don't knock ourselves. We have a tendency to be very negative, where in fact we are extremely good. If you look at the world ranking of universities, where does Europe appear? Nowhere. Where does the UK appear? Frequently. Why do people come here to see how universities are engaging in tech transfer? Because as far as they're concerned, the UK is actually damn good at it. So, first of all, we shouldn't hide our light under a bushel. I think, as scientists and engineers, we ought to also be careful about the way we talk about science and engineering. There was a comment, I think it might have actually been Tony, saying we ought to be saying or proving to school kids and so on that science can be interesting. We never actually say accountancy can be interesting, or that medieval history can be exciting. Science just is science. It is interesting. We don't have to prove it. But by almost sort of defending it, we were trying to find a way of making it interesting. It is interesting anyhow. We've got to be careful about the wording that we use. So if I have a single message to us, it is that we are actually very good, and we ought to be saying that we're good. It is possible to change society. I mean, those of you who've got grey hair like me can remember the 50s and the 60s when science, the white heat of technology, was going to be the solution. Science really was the solution. Something happened in that intervening period, and finance rose together with accountancy, and Monty Python, despite Monty Python and the accountant's jokes. But something happened, but the fact that it changed one way proves that it can actually be changed the other way. All we've got to do is go out there and be consistent about the message about science and engineering and technology and what it can do, what it is already doing to the UK, what it can do in the future.
I'd just like to say that I'd like to hear us celebrating our successes and everything we do. I think it's absolutely fantastic. And I think that's one of the things that would really start to engage the population a lot more. And also the second thing, an auditor is someone who found accountancy too exciting. So, Ellie.
I mean, I'd like to see that there's a clear understanding of science, engineering, technology, and I'd like to add design to it, because these are all very complementary areas of expertise. You do need specialists in all these areas, but design is undoubtedly it's a way of thinking that can help to bring out so many insights across particularly science, engineering and technology. And I think so far we've done lots of work in this area, and I think that awareness is starting to grow. I think the main differentiation, for example, between engineering and design, because I think a lot of people do associate engineering is design, but really real good design is all about understanding behaviour, people's behaviour, what we say we're going to do and how we're going to use something, a service, a product, whatever, isn't actually then how we use it. Things like focus groups aren't the mechanism to find out what the market or what people are going to do with an idea that you're trying to develop. So I really want to see that we are taking design just as seriously in arenas like this at future forums. We're just about to start a programme at the Design Council working with 6 universities around the country, 6 technology transfer offices, each submitting up to 4 projects. Most of them are actually strongly engineering-based projects. That's a year, that programme is starting on the 1st of June. So I'd love to find a way of keeping this forum updated on that, because it will be putting this sort of siloed, non-siloed thinking to the test, and we hope to have some good results from that in the next 12 months.
Okay. Malcolm.
Yes, I've had the privilege of working with companies in computer games, informatics and internet security that are really very, very competitive indeed, and have grown from small size to big companies that have been bought by large corporations and attracted in foreign direct investment. So there are some clear examples, and the things that stand out for me is that the quality of the interface between getting the knowledge into the marketplace and developing the knowledge in the first place is a bit weak. We need to strengthen that. And the other element is to manage companies effectively, because we've got some tremendous ideas that are badly managed that don't work. So I think management and the investment in the interface, which is what I believe in science parks, is where there's a great opportunity.
Okay.
So I'd like to agree with David. Science is fundamentally interesting, but unfortunately the way we teach it isn't. And to pick up on the social issues, if we taught science in a social and economic context, perhaps we wouldn't have to apologise for it. We've heard a lot about silos, but we must remember that people do need to have an intellectual core, and we shouldn't spread ourselves too thin. In terms of how we deal with gender, it's an economic and social imperative. As a nation, we need to take the opportunity for all our best people, and that too is really important. And finally, you must remember that Margaret Thatcher was a chemist, something of which I'm not proud.
Sarah, can you beat that?
No. So I'm a stem cell biologist, so when people talk about creating solutions that are socially and ethically acceptable, then obviously that's very relevant to the work that I'm doing. And I think this is also a very good example of where we have been able to create that public engagement, and there is a degree of public understanding about stem cells, and we are sort of trying to take the public along with us in terms of these sort of complex and new technologies, and trying to emphasise the importance and the potential of this. And I would say, on a very positive note, we are leading in the world in terms of stem cell technology, and this is going to have a huge economic benefit in the long term. So I would say this is a very positive area of science.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd really just like to add that we've talked a lot about promoting science and technology to people, but it's not somebody else's problem. It's something that everyone engaged in science and technology should be doing. All of us here should be doing it, and everyone should be doing it. And if we all actually took responsibility for that, I think we would have perhaps we'd get very much more engagement and interest from the general public than we do at the moment, and perhaps many more people entering science. That's my contribution. What I'd like to do now is